Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new video. So I figured I would release a video today on an off payment day because the cryptosphere continues to be in a state of disarray. Mining is just continuing to collapse. Things are getting really bad, and I figured I'd be transparent and go over the nitty-gritty numbers with you guys. Okay, so we're back on my Ethermine page. Just to show that it is mine, or rather that these numbers are accurate. This is my average hash rate for the past 24 hours. Again, in case you haven't watched any of my previous videos, I do operate rigs that have an output of between 220 to 225 mega hash per second. And we can see how over the past 24 hours my average hash rate has been at 206. For those of you who are not familiar with Ethermine, this isn't unusual. There are times when it'll underestimate your hash rate, and there are times when it'll overestimate your hash rate. Not happy that it's underestimating my hash rate right now, but that's what it is. So there was no downtime over the past 24 hours. That's just what it's been reading. So it is about 6% below my actual hash rate. So based on these numbers, what are my projected earnings based on the current difficulty and the current pricing of Ether? For the next month, my estimated earnings based on these numbers are $233.58. This is hands down the lowest number I've ever seen, hands down. Even if you adjust this number upward to my actual hash rate, which is about 220, it would still be at like 248, which is still hands down the lowest estimated earning I have seen since I started mining about 5 months ago. The lowest, hands down. These numbers are bad, or they're not good, and it's definitely worries me for sure. Now, I released a video several weeks ago where I basically compiled data I got a spreadsheet of Ether's historical price since its inception, as well as a spreadsheet of data of Ether's historical difficulty for mining since its inception. Based on those two numbers, I went ahead and calculated this new metric, which is the profitability of mining Ether. How this metric is calculated is simply the price of Ether divided by the difficulty. This gives us our profitability rate. So basically, if you think about it this way, difficulty is essentially a measure of time, because based on the difficulty, that's how long it's going to take you to mine a certain amount of Ether, right? So in other words, this metric is basically Ether price, dollars, divided by time. So dollars divided by time, that gives you your profitability rate. So then I went ahead and calculated this profitability rate since its inception, and I graphed it. And I have those results here because I haven't really done this analysis since a few weeks ago. So here are the numbers based on the data that we've had since the last analysis of this. So on this graph, the x-axis is time. So here we have 2015. This little hash mark after the 2015, that's the end of 2015 roughly. This hash mark after 2016, that's the end of 2016 roughly. And this hash mark after 2017, that's the end of 2017 roughly. So at the very far right, that would be roughly today, the very far right. This red line going through the entire graph, that's basically the average profitability rate, right? So since 2015, it's sometimes been higher, sometimes been lower, but that is the average. So basically, the higher it is above this red line, the more profitable mining is, assuming you cash out as soon as the Ether is received in your account. So the higher we are above this red line, the better for miners. The further below the red line we are, the worse off miners are, assuming selling off as soon as you get the payout to your account. So there's the average, and as we can see, again, the far right, that's where we're at today roughly. So we can see that we're below the historical profitability rate of mining Ether, but it's really not that far below the average. And not only that, but as we can see, there have been times when it's been lower and it's stayed there for a while. So only time will tell like what's going to happen in the coming weeks and months. But don't be surprised at all if it only gets worse and it kind of just stays there. So we can see how our current profitability is about 0.159 based on this metric, and the historical average is 0.232. So basically we're about 30% below the historical profitability. So let me just throw out some numbers. Let's say you get a payment today and you sell that payment for $100. That's how much you get to your account, $100 after you trade it. Based on the historical average, you should be, or rather, if we were at the historical average, you would be receiving $130 for that Ether. So you'd be losing 30 bucks there. So in my case in particular, again, I've stopped selling at the time that I received the Ether because the profitability is so low right now. But assuming I were still selling, again, I get a payout of about 0.05 Ether every payout every 2-3 days. If I was selling that right now, I would be getting roughly $26, I believe, or yeah, about $26. But based on the historical profitability, I should be receiving closer to like $33. So I'm losing $7 there every 2-3 days. And I think I do agree with the saying that past performance is the best indicator of future performance. So I do eventually expect that the profitability rate will eventually uptick to normal, back to the 0.23, based on past performance. But again, also this is not financial advice. Please do not base your decisions based on what I say. I just compiled the data, and I'm showing what it is. This is just data. It's unbiased data. This is what's happened over the course of Ether's inception, over the course of Ether's history. So again, just to recap, we're about 30% below the average profitability. But again, don't be alarmed if it kind of just stays here for a while, or if it even drops even further. As we can see, there were periods in 2016 and even 2017 where we were roughly at or below these numbers. Okay, so now what does that mean in terms of break-even period on equipment, electricity, and all that? Well, we can go ahead and run some base cases here. So let's see here. So I pulled up this calculator. It's a U.S. government website, so I think it's fairly reliable. It basically calculates your electricity bill. And so again, equipment roughly of my size, it's roughly going to require about 1,200 watts to operate. And then assuming we run it for 24 hours a day, 30 days in a month. And if we were in Hawaii, the average Hawaiian would not be able to pay their electricity bill right now. Again, assuming they're cashing out at the time the crypto is received in their account. They would not be paying off their electricity bill. The next state in line is Alaska. They're the next highest at 22 cents. We can see how for them, they would be paying roughly $190. So they would be making profit of around $40, $50. But again, that's not great at all. I mean, break-even period is just ridiculous. And then we can see my use case. I'm looking at an electricity bill of about $140 every month. So that means based on current numbers, I'm making about $100 in profit after electricity, assuming I sell off right away. But again, equipment this size, similar to mine with that hashing output, costs around $5,000, around there. And so if I'm making $100 in profit every month, you're looking at a 50-month, roughly 50-month break-even period. That's 4+ years. Who knows if the GPUs are going to be able to run that long? I definitely expect 2 years out of them, probably even 3 years out of them. But beyond that, I don't know that they will still be hashing away profitably. Especially once the new generation of GPUs is released later this year, and then another generation will be released in, I'm guessing, 2020. So I expect 2 more years out of these things, 3 more years, who knows? So yeah, things are pretty bleak right now. Things are pretty bleak. And we'll take the best case scenario in the nation. Apparently, Louisiana is the state with the lowest average electricity rate at about 9 cents per kilowatt hour. Even there, you're looking at an electricity bill of roughly $80 for this equipment. And so based on current numbers, someone there would be making about $150, $160 in profit after electricity on this equipment. I mean, even in Louisiana, if you were to start mining today on equipment this size, you're looking at about 30 months to break even on your equipment. That's 2.5 years, right? So who knows? I mean, make your own decision about that. Just things are not great right now at all. And then we'll go ahead and